Hello, interstellar everyone. Welcome to class 11 biology. In this video, we will be discussing about introduction to plant growth regulators or PGRs. And then we will discuss about how the different kinds of plant growth regulators were discovered. So far, we have discussed about growth, development, and differentiation. And we saw that development is the sum total of growth and differentiation. For growth, the differentiation ni chungni आणि plant की development chungo res laimba आणि plant की growth and development or growth the differentiation nanglola there are two factors which can have effects are intrinsic factors the extrinsic factors and intrinsic factors nanglola ngazula khari khamanda niyo genes either it can depend on genes or it can depend upon different kinds of chemicals within the plant body which can act as chemical messengers between the cells and they are called as plant growth regulators chemicals tigela ngazu khale plant growth regulators lagre konju gi cell parala information te ni ani cell salong che la ro che ya cell salong che stop che ta tangjin chenge chila la regulators la win ba na so ngazu gi thari globzen na lo la ngazu gi plant growth regulators na khare lagi yeme ro ani konju khandes thenri bazu gu jeje chene nye i medical la durdu shi teshe gi ro ta thangbo dikhare plant growth regulators ro plant growth regulators in short it is called as PGRs. They are also called as plant growth substances, plant hormones or phytohormones. So this is khare thenji mingi namra ro charu gor plant growth regulators lane digre plant growth substances lane digre amena plant hormones or phytohormones lane digor so commonly it is called as phytohormones ro phyto loving plant hormones loving ben chemical messengers okay so the koigi tensama thunda chikba imba che ro and plant growth regulators they are nothing but small simple molecules they are small and simple in structure but they are chemically diverse. There are different kinds of growth regulators. They are small, simple, and chemically diverse molecules. Now, based upon their function, plant growth regulators they can be grouped into two large groups. They can be classified into two large groups. Plant growth regulators they can either be growth promoters or growth inhibitors. Deze manda ni chaso growth promote chenye ge yore growth inhibit chenye ge yor. Nda khala gore plant gi subu nanglo la plant growth regulators ki lengen la shishani. Ani ko deze manda ni le yawajer. Chi kharchi gore chalong che la roba chi gore growth promoters chadu ra. Imba nzo kharchi gore chalong che la 가지고래 스톱 치고 다 각바도 시켜버리는 식으로 딜라 하려고래 plant growth inhibitors 라고 예전이 차서 now plant growth promoters की खरी चीज़ plant growth promoters are those plant growth regulators which are involved in cell division right promoting cell division cell enlargement pattern formation tropic growth flowering fruiting and seed formation all these are involved in pro growth 살롱 제로 로바 체요로 지르도 딘 example 혼자 가래 growth promoters re and examples of plant growth promoters are 내가 지금 보다 auxins gibberellins and cytokinins dice konsusum tempanyana digido and then plant growth inhibitors ki lengen kharichi gore tangzin chedu zambala roba chenge ge yore yamena gagwa jenge ge yoro 딘 zambala gagwa jenge de zo khare plant growth inhibitors re so plant growth inhibitors are those plant growth regulators which are involved in dormancy seed dormancy or seed dormant la ne yamena khare kogi but the dormancy la ne dormancy la wi ba na inactive to chan dewa metabolism slow do cha an inactive chan ni de to min de kisi conditions ya ko me wi ba na if the environmental conditions are unfavorable the seeds they won't germinate such kind of seeds are called as dormant seed so dormancy la no odi lagorda so some hormones they are involved in inducing seed dormancy and some plant growth regulators they are involved in abscission abscission la wi ba na ani loma ningba cha sa vejela kam sa vejela ma chaya sto di abscission re shingdo chö sa vejela ma chaya process to dile khale re abscission la wor So such kind of growth regulators which are involved in dormancy and abscission, they are called as plant growth inhibitors. Inhibit चाहिए. Example yakshu khari ore abscisic acid or ABA in short. Abscisic acid la the plant growth inhibitor ki example yakshu jire. Now there is another kind of growth hormone which is ethylene. It is a gaseous plant growth regulator. Ethylene la ishto. Di gilenge ni ka nalyor. Plant growth promoter gere, plant growth inhibitor gere. Ethylene la di. But it is largely so chan ko khari laga chi gora la wimba na. It acts as inhibitor. Plant growth inhibitor lega chiwor. So this is ki ethylene la de churi ne ethylene ki role niga nal yorta. Some ko growth promote ke chiwore, some growth inhibit ke chiwore ne ko growth inhibition nalo la role manga yoba sonza. We can consider ethylene as plant growth inhibitor over here in our classification. Okay, DJ. Let's talk about the discovery of plant growth regulators. Plant growth regulators manda mangbo yore dige sama khandis discover chae me reme chin taenda. Now azu log dem nala khari theory la wimba na. Most of these discoveries they are all accidental. Accidentally nye jo. Kangzo ne che yon de ke mare accidentally nye yon de. Bene chashan accidental discovery do kene bene chasha wimba na the discovery of first antibiotic. If you read about that particular story kiranzo online nanglo tseje cheda antibiotic thangbo antibiotic la wimba na bacteria se ga jigi me thangbo di su gi tseje chedo khandes tseje chedo tada that discovery was accidental wa cheri bachi gi accidentally nyere di gi ta thingsa pet kora mi mangbu shu ji gi ani cheso save chedu or many lives are saved because of that accidental discovery of the first antibiotic. So you read about that. Now, the discovery of plant growth regulators, right? And these discoveries they are mostly accidental, accidentally nye jwa. Penesha sha wimba na thangbo dikhare plant growth regulator thangbo di auxin. Auxin la di thangbo sugi tseju chen nye la wimba na Charles Darwin and his son Francis Darwin in 1800s or 1880s na lola. Charles Darwin, the Francis Darwin or the punyi di kharit thong re la wimba na they observed that the coleoptiles of the canary grass ki sön ne ma tseja thön li do tilang azu khal le thangbu thön yu de la coleoptile le re coleoptile. So this coleoptile, right, it responds to light. Kesi ko ngalo yo do char wi na ani ko yo la ko respond chiwor through its growth, right, and that is called as phototrophic response. Photo la wi na light la or trophic la na direction la or. So phototrophic response chitungre. So dila shisha ni ani khonjo gi kharla re coleoptile is the site responsible for the bending of entire coleoptile tip of the coleoptile se jomarwe di ani coleoptile bending la ani effective dos la ta khande rela wi bana penecha shana if the tip di darwin khunyi gi cheyo de la orda isi coleoptile gi tip di intact him baina coleoptile che tang me wi bana ani di gala side chig ne we par na unilateral and six tier unilateral na khala ore side chig ne unilateral chig che lateral na side ne la orwa so we di side chig ne par wi baina an khaji ore we gyung jo la pha coleoptile di kyo to or isi coleoptile gi tip di pha ko ni apex exercise na tip di pha ko che ro tubni ani kisi we ji tang wi baina ani coleoptile di kharchi go mare pen chi go mar so chung so di indu zambala ani shimbaji kharchi ro kunzu gi tip di madu ba che ani gang la kap che ro gang gi tip di kap wi baina ro na gung ro ji na sha wi baina ani surji ne we par wi baina kharchi go re coleoptile di ya pen chi go mar di indu zambala kunzu gi kharla coleoptile ki tip nalola. The tip of the coleoptile was the site responsible for bending of the entire coleoptile towards the light. Phototrophic effect chamare. Phototrophic response che thunge gi nuba di suzal dula wimena coleoptile ki tip la dular. And later on, the chemical called auxin was isolated by this particular scientist, F.W. Wendt, from the tips of the coleoptile of oat seeds. Oat seeds ne oat seedlings ka ji gi coleoptile gi tip ne ko kharit ne la wimba na auxin like chemical titer. It was observed first by Charles Darwin and Francis Darwin, but later on it was identified, right? The chemical auxin was identified or isolated by this particular scientist. So the names could be important for competitive examinations. Okay, Auxins la the countries discover chairman Ming do shle win na FW went la na Darwin Ming di tempa de go orda. Okay, diche. And next kharang anjugi next plant growth hormone or plant growth regulator is gibberellic acid. Gibberellic acid la to. So gibberellic acid la the khande nyere khadu nyer la thangbu 1930s na lo nyer. Di nyeda the khande stre la win na yema Japan la Japan gi stable food the rice chadu or ani rice nanglo la naza jor naza dikhare la mana bakane disease la to bakane disease or foolish seedling disease ta digi ani de gi tondo lo ne shukchum bu shuke gi yoba sonza ta I kurosawa la gi theri badi khare ha kore la wi na wa if the seedlings rice seedlings la you see Gibberella fujikuri la gi fungus jor Gibberella fujikuri la to the fungus tiga jigi ani sterile filtrate chik you see de la pangwa imba na de nanglo lu imba na de gi seedling nanglo lu imba na ani de gi seedling de naza khari na gore la na bakanes disease la na gore foolish seedling disease wa tadi nago we gyumzen di kharicha du do Gibberella fujikuri la di inji minji sombo gominda sterile la imba na Gibberella fujikuri la gi fungus ti se sarta sterile so sare ine kho gi juice chorwa filtrate la weben ko juice to jomare kesi di rice la chu we imba na ni rice di naza nagorta fungus di sombo inere shitsa inere kesi ko gi juice to ji rice de la po we imba na ani rice di naza khari nagore bakane disease la nagor isu gi ha gore I kurosawa la di ha gor so je la khare ha gore la wena Gibberella fujikuri la di gi ani chemical so gore chemical di gi kembe gani bakane disease la di nagor rice di ani chemical di jela khari imba ha gore gibberellic acid la di imba ha gore tadi nalo zo di kharesha nazar dire to bakane disease la di bakane disease is also called as foolish seedling disease foolish seedling disease lemba lo ora ta tadi lago yumzen khare lawo imba na kesi de chila rice ki seedling chila bakane disease la nazar di pho we imba na fungus di fungus digi infect chewe imbaina if a rice seedling gets infected by this particular fungus Gibberella fujikuri laegi fungus digi infect chewe imbaina the afflicted plants never the kharcha do gore pakane disease la na the khandes na gore lawi imbaina they look etiolated and chlorotic la de zamba khalo etiolated la na ko salong do shu chi gorda ine salong do chewa je bu digo mar ko loma di kharcha gore se shok do ste di gore and se shosho dewa ma se they are infertile law imba na ko reproduce chhe gu nduba yomar medo sharu omar medo mashar wa imba ine ro kisi medo shar thuga che wa imba ine kisi de do cha wa imba da shuma de ta dine de dundo ke wora de khar che gore nanglo lo tongba ke wor nanglo de me gyo swe me gyo ke wor infertile cha so producing no edible grains sa yo che yomar and at worst kisi naza shukchmu shush na wa imba na they grow so fast that their stems they are weak and they cannot hold the weight of the rice plant korang bi jigo duma kyo wache ani de dima topple over na ma rival over ma reach and shidu over so that is why it is called as foolish seedling disease it grows so fast its leaves does not become green they become yellow ani photosynthesis shera chema tu ani ko stem ki thickness te yakbo mayo wache ani khora ri ni shidu over din khalo ore foolish seedling disease la di naza dikke na go jumze khare la wimba na fungus tik na or Gibberella fujikuri la di ani jela I kurosawa gi khare ha gore la wimba na Gibberella fujikuri la gi fungus ti inji mi ju sembo gomar Gibberella fujikuri se ani ko gi juice choro kisi odi de de le chu wimba na yan de de naza thagara na gor bakani disease la di na gor di ni zambala ani fungus ti gi khari sugo ore la wimba na gibberellic acid la di sugor ani gibberellic acid gi kembe gi ani plant di nagor so gibberellic acid line on the sneer 1930s nanglola so that is the second one now the third one is the discovery of cytokinins discovery of cytokinins it was discovered in 1950s now there are two names F Skoog and Miller C Miller okay so Skoog the Miller ladigi they found out a chemical which promotes cytokinesis or cell division, and they called it as kinetin. F. Skook and Miller, they were the scientists who identified the chemical responsible for promoting cytokinesis or cell division, and they call it as kinetin. Kinetin la dinyer. The kinetin la di khare la women, it is an adenine derivative. Adi nenga chumburta adenine la isto. Adenine la di khiran zu khwala jang yore DNA jang du zambala jang yor. DNA nanglo la adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine la jang ba nitrogenous base. And this particular substance, the growth regulator called kinetin, it is an adenine derivative. Adenine like chemical dine chungyo jire. So, diche. Now, they observed that the cells of the tobacco callus, callus la women, zishin la zerba lagdo, zishin gdombo la zerba, mil nundu mewa da, and zishin la zerba yon mewa yon sigma relajo, zishin la zerba, shingdon la zerba mewa da, mil nundu mewa yon sigma reladi, zerba laj min the zishin gangi, tilangazo khala na digidu, callus la na digidu. So, F. Skook and Miller, they observed that the cells from the tobacco plant ki callus chorwa, which is nothing but mass of undifferentiated cells. They proliferated only if one of the following were added to the nutrient medium along with the auxins. Kunzu ki zerba nanglo di zerba jorwa, di nanglo ki chingdong ki ta internode para le ki zerba jorwa, chingdong ki zerba lagor ta tobacco plant kaji. This cell di matoni ta ko kesi plant kaji cell di kirangi petri dish nanglo lo grow chi ay manan dil nutrient medium do ste ora khola chu do ste ora. Chu di nanglo la kesi cell divide che go yobi mana proliferate lana mangro do wala ora. Kesi cell di shuk chambu divide tang ju go yobi mana ani nutrient medium la kharilu go ora la wi mana auxin da nyam do la dige nanglo jiglu go ora. Extracts of vascular tissues, extract of yeast extract, coconut milk or DNA. Auxin nyam do la dige nanglo ni jiglu wi mana aja sishingi tobacco plant ki zerba nanglo tyongyo ki thabung di doko shuji proliferate che tu ora. And later on they found these things they all contain this adenine derivative called as kinetin. So that is how the first kinetin was found. It was discovered. So cytokinin che. Then next discovery of abscisic acid. No names are given over here. So in 1960s, abscisic acid was discovered. Step by step three independent researchers lab manda sumski lab manda sumski they reported three different kinds of inhibitors. Plant growth inhibit growth regulators shorwa inde kha manda sum khoranzogi sum di khar resha lawi mena inhibitor B group chi gi kharlasha mazula inhibitor B la ya sons the inhibitor B ki khar chigdu lawi mena plant gi charlong di stop chigdus. They found that the inhibitor B, it inhibits the plant growth. This seri ba dezen chigi la yorda. Then seri ba ya group shemba ji ki khar la yor lawi mena they found abscission 2 la ji plant growth regulator shinyer. Abscission 2 la di khar chigdu lawi mena it causes abscission la nge khalas loma shitsa veje la ma kho ni ma plant ma chayash to dila khala or abscission la or loma ningba chan ma go chaya gi process chiminde dil abscission la or. So abscission cause chinge gi chemical jinge re seri ba group shamba de din khonjo gi ming kharta re abscission 2 lan ming tar. Then another group of scientists, they found out that there is a chemical responsible for seed or bud dormancy. Yela so tanji kisi chishingi suenchik kisi unfavorable condition nalo ne de yo mana ko germinate chigmares. Adi germinate chema jung ye khare yore there are hormones. So the hormone di thangbu konjo ming kharta re dormin lan ming tar. So seri ba manda sumski seri ba deze manda kha sumski franzo ta so research cheni chemical manda sum nye to. But later on it was found that all these three chemicals, they were identical. All these three chemicals, inhibitor B, abscission 2, dormin la dige sama khare identical chikba jigyar. and then it was called as abscisic acid. This is called as abscisic acid. So that is how abscisic acid was discovered. So the growth inhibitor rida. Okay. Then finally we have ethylene. How ethylene was discovered. Tadi ngi Wikipedia na lo by na. Ani ethylene discovery, ethylene as a plant hormone or ethylene as a plant growth regulators, the discovery the sew shirami ne ngara zo loktem na lo te shawa di siero. Kunzu loktem na lo ngazo khari te shala win by na cousins like is mijigi found out that ripened oranges saluma chue sagyo jomarwe ripened oranges, it released a volatile substance, volatile na gaseous la woro. So ripened oranges, it released a volatile substance that hastened the ripening of unripened bananas. Isi kela kacha chikro ta kela masoyo la woro. Kela masoyo unripened bananas, if it was kept along with if the unripened bananas, if it was kept along with ripened oranges, ripened oranges nyam tola shawin bana banana di gyopo shutsu ruor hasten down gyor tang wala woro. So ripening gyor ruor. This volatile substance was later identified as ethylene. Ethylene lawor. Tingsa shingdo zongye mangche kharchigri lawi mana kisi yela kia kacha ki ro kia macho gyoji ki kisi phaji mijila phate oyobi mana customer la chondu zambala chogyo chongo yobi mana they apply something over here, right? Dela khonju ki chemical doji chugre the chemical di chuwa lamsa kela khajiri senji lo chorur. Adi khonju ki chemical di khari khande doji rela win bana they are mostly chemicals which looks like ethylene do ki chemical in there chang zu jela ha ko ro en ne ko zu yogi chemical jor. So that is the discovery of ethylene. Now we have discussed about five different types of chemical like ethylene, abscisic acid, cytokinins, gibberellic acid, and auxin. So digenga khajigi tang azu next khar tagar lawin bana digenga khajigi physiological effect tagar plant ki growth kala. So next we will be discussing about the physiological effects of plant growth regulators like auxin, gibberellic acid, right, cytokinins, abscisic acid, and ethylene. Okay, so please read about this particular section. Section lawyer da and the kesa video so notes plant growth regulators note so plant growth regulators auxin ki lega kharchi do function kharresha ani gibberellic acid ki function kharresha abscisic acid की function कर रहे cytokinin की function कर रहे दो ethylene की function कर रहे दो ठीक है ना जो notes से करता you have to make a note. Okay, so then it will be easier for you to understand when you watch the video. Okay, so please read and prepare notes on the physiological effects of plant growth regulators. Okay, thank you.